Hi, my name is Carmel and I'm the chair of Greater Liverpool and Knowsley. I'm joined by Helen, our PR comms officer. And this afternoon we have a special guest, Dave Dawes.
Hi, I'm Dave Dawes. In my day job, I'm a lecturer at Manchester Met University, and I'm director of a charity that's a national charity looking at health and social care. But I'm also the council member for the North West, and I'm chair of the North West board. So, yeah.
So this would be a really busy time of year for you, as we just had our Congress week. So what would your role be right now?
So when you're on council, Congress is a really strange week. This would have been my 29th Congress. Next year will be my 29th. So my first one was in 1990 when I was a first year student. And I've only missed two since then. One, because my manager wouldn't give me the week off. And I nearly did a grievance, but decided not to. And once when it was the birth of my son, Ben. And I just thought that would not be a good thing to miss. You missed your son's birth. So I've been at Congress a lot of times as funded voting member, a lot of times self-funding, non-voting member, and I think 6 years on council. Yeah, 6 years as a council member. And council member is the worst way to do Congress because you're not really encouraged to speak very much. It's very much frowned on. I normally speak about once a week, but it's frowned on if you speak because we're supposed to be there listening to the members. But also, because we're there to listen to all the debate, you have to pay attention all the time. So you can't really zone out when you have those. Well, we all know there's some dull debates at Congress where people stand up and go, I think it's a good idea that we don't hit patients with hammers. And then like 15 people go up and go, I don't think we should hit patients with hammers. And you're like, oh, okay, right. And you get those sort of debates, but you have to sort of pay attention because we then, at the end of Congress, we then get given all of those items to then work with, and we lead on some of them and delegate them. So it's quite a heavy week, and we start off the day with breakfast briefings. So we have to get up earlier than most people, and then we have a briefing before Congress starts. Then we're in the hall all the way through. You've got agenda committee meetings as well, and then at the end of the day, we often have a wrap up. Then we'll kind of go to the parties and so on. So on a Thursday, so we're Thursday afternoon now. Yeah. So Congress will have finished in the afternoon. Council meets after that. And we generally have a bit of a wrap up of, we delegate, work out who's going to be the lead for different items. It's quite a busy time.
And it doesn't end there then, does it? Because then that all feeds into what you're going to do for the whole of the year, isn't it? Until the next Congress, if you like.
So what used to happen up till about 3 years ago when we did the council review is council would formally get all of the Congress items and we would then delegate them to various committees. Some of them would be done by council, some by, say, the finance committee, some by what's now the trade union committee, professional nursing committee, etc. When we did the council governance review and those committees were set up, so we've got elected people. So in the Northwest, we've got Sally, who's our Northwest elected professional committee member. We've got Mike Travis, who's our trade union committee member. So some of those items automatically get delegated. If they're a bit of a sort of forum, professional activity thing, they tend to go to professional committee. If they're about pay, reps, terms, conditions, that kind of thing, it tends to go to the trade union committee. And council tend to get the sort of the governance committees or some of the political ones, or
So I mean, this is, you've told us you've been to quite a few congresses now. What would be your favourite moment of Congress, do you think? It's quite a big question because you've got to trail through the archives there.
Oh God, that's a good question. So I'll probably separate into three little quick groups. So who's my favorite Congress speaker? I can think of three that make me cry. So, and I remember crying in the auditorium. Actually, some of them, I think a lot of us did. I'm trying to think, Christine Watson, I think her name is, who wrote the book on caring about her. Yeah, that was a really, really powerful speech. Sometimes people talking about their own personal experiences of kind of the care in the system. There was one we did a few years ago where nurses from Northern Ireland, which is my place of birth, spoke about nursing during the Troubles. That was really moving. So those were good speech things I've heard. In terms of items, I quite like it when Congress gets a bit rowdy. So things like last year, there was an emergency item from the floor about governance review, and that has a lot of passion. So there's a real energy when something suddenly comes from the floor, because normally people have written the pre-prepared speeches and some of them have been worked on for 3 weeks and stuff. You get that spontaneity. So I like that. And social events. I miss the social event. I think for me, it's a bit of time where we can let our hair down a bit. Those of us that still got any hair at all. We connect. I'd probably say half my professional network are people I first met in a bar at Congress. And because I've been around so long, when I came, I was a student. So there are people I knew who were the great and the good at the time, who've now been retired 20 years, people like Professor June Clark, who I could just listen to for days, and has such a history, and, you know, and you learn all of them, and then you meet your idols. So Nancy Roper, who wrote Roper, Logan and Tierney, the classic nursing book, right, when I was a student, and probably still is. I got a text message about 15 years ago, and someone went, Nancy Roper's in the bar at the Majestic, and everyone was passing it around, and we turned up, and there's this little frail old lady, and everyone was treating her like royalty, and we're going up going like, you're such an inspiration, I can't believe you're here. And she was totally overawed by it, and there was students like 10 feet deep at the bar, you know, just trying to talk to this woman. So the social stuff for me is really important, and I think it's what builds the bonds. So we have the professional stuff, but the fact we can have a laugh together, the fact we can have a beer together, or a shandy, or a lemonade these days, it seems to happen a lot, and we get to know each other as people. And then when you have those really hard moments, they're the people that you know have your back, and the people that you know you could ring up at 2 a.m. and go, I've got a problem, you know.
So absolutely, and I think we've all got those kind of emotions about Congress. So Congress is really important to me, and we spent all week kind of saying things that we've missed and why it's important to us. Why is the RCN important to you, and why is Congress so important to the RCN?
Well, that's a good question. And do tell me if I'm doing really verbose answers, because I don't mind being shut up. What does the RCN mean for me? I think at one level, the RCN for me feels very much like family, and we've often had big rows, and I've had big rows when I've been a member who's held no elected role, you know, but being a steward and arguing against the regional board and council. And I've been in the position where you've been on council and you know, agenda committee and chairs and having those arguments. And for me, I think when the RCN's at its absolute best, it's this amazing force for nurses and for nursing and for healthcare in the UK. We don't often really get it on all cylinders, but when it does, it's incredible to see. And being at some of the big demos and the lobbying, and, you know, I've done a lot of RCN marches in my day, and you can see the power of when we're able to do things like, and I did a talk to some student nurses a couple of years ago, and said, you know, you've grown up with nurse prescribing, so that came out of the RCN. You know, you've grown up with nurse consultants, that came out of the RCN. The RCN was there before the birth of the NHS, you know, before the birth of the modern hospice movement. So a lot of what we do, degree-only nursing, was because of the RCN. So that's what it feels like for me. It's this huge, it's a potentially powerful body. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it isn't. And it's family for me. And Congress, I think, it's a bit of I see Congress as almost like the beating heart of the RCN, because it's where the activists come together. And I've always said that only about 2 or 3% of members are activists. And a lot of people pay the subs, and if they get into trouble, they ring up or they use it for the library or whatever. And that's fine. They pay for everything, but they don't really use the RCN. the activists who are the jobbing, stewards, safety reps, learning reps, the forum activists, the board members, the branch officers, they're the ones who are doing really important stuff on a day-to-day basis, either at local level, national level, or, and that's what makes the RCN happen. And Congress is about us getting together and supporting each other and making decisions. And, if we didn't have Congress, and I know organizations don't really have anything like it, the bonds aren't as strong, feels just a lot more corporate, or a bit more, like an NHS trust. Yeah.
The whole reason why I got active in the RCN was because I just happened to think, I'm off, so I'll go to Congress. And it was the year Jeremy Corbyn was there, and I think there was a lot of noise and everyone was really passionate, and I signed up to be a steward, and Jude Diggins, she signed me up, and I just was wowed by it. And I think it's a really good place to start that kind of journey off in the RCN. What do you think is a good path to kind of, because obviously you've had a lot of roles and that's culminated now in the council, what's a good way for somebody just starting out, do you think?
So I think what you've described is a lot of our experience. So the way I got involved, I was recruited, I think the second week in the of being a student nurse. So the unions rock up and they do a little talk, and there was someone from what was then COSI and NALGO and NUPE, that are now Unison. And weirdly, the person who turned up for the RCN was one of the national student officers, because we were one of the first wave of Project 2000, which a lot of people now I don't even know what that is, but we were I think we're the second or third college in the country to do it in Macclesfield. My whole career has been in the Northwest. And I was like, I'm going to join the RCN because my mum was in the RCN, which I think there is a lot of research that about 50 or 60% of us who have a mum who's a nurse join the RCN because your mum, so my mum was like, join the RCN. And he went, we've got this event called Congress, do you want to turn up? At the time, they gave you 50 quid spending money. And they went, and it's free accommodation, and it's fun. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I rock up as a student there. I've never been politically active. And you see these incredible people. I think I might have met Andrea, who's, then went on to become president then. Certainly I met June Clark then. Mike Travis I met, I think that week. Jason Warrener, we were both students together. So you there's this whole, you get caught up in it. And once you've been to Congress, you tend to be an activist, which is one of the reasons why, as chair of the Northwest Board, I've always really pushed hard for us to give quite a lot of money to fund new people to go to Congress above and beyond what the RCN funds anyway. So I think we're the region that gives the most money to get new people, and we put a lot of money behind it, and we advertise it, and we bus students in by the busload, because once you go along, you get caught up. Yeah. So if I meet someone, which often happens, I'll meet someone, it's their first Congress, and they're like, it's all a bit new to me. And then I usually say, what are you passionate about? So if you're passionate about an area of practice, like surgical nursing or kids nursing or mental health nursing, I said forums are a good starting point. Join a forum, network a bit, maybe put yourself forward for a forum committee. That's a good route. If, like me, I've always been quite passionate about justice and social justice and supporting people, so I became a steward. I became a steward pretty quick. I think I became a steward in the days when student nurses could become stewards. Oh, wow. So I was a student steward, and you used to have a different badge. If you're interested in health and safety rep's good. And branches, most branches, if you want to be active, there's a slot on the branch for you. Even if it's deputy assistant comms manager, they'll go, yeah, you could be that. So the RCN's a pretty open door. If you want to be active, generally you can be active. And I think once you've found those roles, what's right for you, then after a couple of years, stand for some of the elections. And there's elections pretty much every year. And, you can then become like an elected branch officer. You can then become regional boards, a really good place. And then you're influencing the policy across the whole Northwest. You've got trade union committee, professional committee, council, and all of that. So I think there's a space for everyone, whatever their passionate, their area of interest is. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the good things about the RCN and about the nursing and healthcare family all across the board, is there's always a space for somebody. Is there anything that you haven't done that you would like to?
Ooh.
So weirdly, I've held almost every elected post. So I've been like board. I've never been a board chair, I don't think. I'm not sure I'd be a good board chair. But yeah, I've been treasurer, secretary, steward, regional board, agenda committee. I've never gone for vice chair or chair of Congress because I don't think I'd be very good at it, and I'm not. That's, you know, yeah, it's not my strong suit. I think I've probably done. Oh yeah, I've been a forum chair. I've been forum activist. I've been on a lot of those committees. I mean, I think I'm kind of getting towards the end of my RCN career, probably, and that's fine. There's a bunch of people who've held like Andrea, you know, has held Andrea Spropis, who I don't know, has held pretty much every role you can have in the career, and is still incredibly still incredibly influential. Still supports people, even though she doesn't have an official, you know, an official title. So I'll always be that. I think I'll be going to Congress.
She's officially our brand president.
Is she? Right. Yeah, and Liverpool branch is one of the oldest branches in the RCN. One of the few that has a formal president role. Yeah, but I'll still be rocking up at Congress. I'll be kind of like Andrew Parker in his day, and I can think of a few others that you'll be sat at the bar going, I remember when. You know, in fact, I remember when council, because I did this once. It's horrible. When Congress is on and there's the whole audience, council used to sit on the stage facing the audience. So, you know, like in the Muppet Show, you have those rows of Muppets. That's what we look like. And I think I've got a photograph somewhere of in '92, and you can see me on stage. So you had to sit and look forward and not fall asleep and not get bored. And there was no smartphones, so you couldn't even chat or surf the web or play a game. You literally had to stare forward for 7 hours and not get bored. It's horrible.
That's quite intense. I don't know if I could do that. I think it's if you've been lucky enough to have a voting place, or I have a couple of years now, I think they're quite long, intense days, aren't they? Because you are sat in the debates and there's so much going on. And I mean, I had no plans to get up and speak. And then Jim Blair, I was sat next to him because we were London branch, and suddenly, you know, he's coaxing me to go up, convincing me, and there I am. And then you're up a few more times, and the adrenaline rush of that, it's really quite an exhausting week. I don't know if I think I might have been to 1 or 2 fringes last year because I just couldn't get to them. So it's quite different, isn't it, going as a voter member and then going as a non-voter
member? Yeah, you should go. Non-voter member is much more fun, because the thing about non-voter members, for a start, you don't feel guilty if you've had a bit of a late night and you just want a lie-in. And especially with the technology now, it's live streamed. Mm-hmm. So I've been a couple of years where I've been in bed, I had it on in the background, so I'm kind of listening to a bit of it, but I'm having a bit of a snooze, and I'm having a bit of cereal, and it's a much better way. And if there's a fringe you want to go to, you don't feel guilty. Whereas when I've been a voting member, it's like, you know, there's competition for it. You've been funded. And to me, it's like, okay, you have to be at everything. You have to be at every vote. It is tiring. Yeah.
I find that there's quite a responsibility there, and it is a privilege, and, you know, money being spent and whatever, but you are, you know, you've got the thousands of members from your branch that are sitting on your shoulders that you are, you know, speaking on behalf of. So yeah, it is really intense. I think my little one kind of laughs because, you know, Congress is really tiring, and he's like, but you just sat there all week. Like, well, it is. You've got to focus, and you know, there's important things being discussed.
My son Ben's been to 5 congresses, so I don't know what it's like now. But it used to have. I mean, he's 22 now, so. But it used to have the best crash facility of any conference I'd ever seen. And the first year we used it, I think he was 1.5, so he was still like a little toddler. No, he was 1 because his birthday quite often lands in Congress because he was born during Congress week. So and he had a great time, and there was amazing staff. And I remember in the evening they said, "Oh, we do babysitting as well." And I was like, "Oh, great, go to a party." So, and these babysitters were all NNEB trained, so and I said, "Oh, what time do we have to be back?" And she went, "You come back whenever you want to come back. I get paid by the hour. You want to rock up at 3 a.m, that's fine. I get paid till 3 a.m." So we were like, "Oh, brilliant." I said, "Well, how much is it?" And she went, "It's free." The RCN used to provide free babysitting, free crash all week. It was incredible. So yeah, Ben's been to 5 congresses.
He's more than I have.
Yeah.
Well,
But
sorry, go on, what were we going to say?
No, I was going to say, it is definitely one of those things. If you're listening and you've never been to Congress, definitely go. Definitely ask for the Northwest region, because we fund people and priorities given to people who've never been. So what I would say is, if you've never been to Congress and you apply for funding, in fact, I don't think we've turned any first-time attendees down in 5 years. You're almost guaranteed. We might only fund you for a couple of days, but go, and it will be the professional experience of your life. It's when I plan my year, I mean, I go to a lot of conferences now because in my jobs, Congress to me is a must-attend event in the year. Congress gets blocked out. Nothing gets in the way of Congress, because it recharges my professional batteries in a way you don't like. You might have an issue. I'm trying to think of a good example. So there'll be some issue about, well, drugs is a good one. So there'll be an item that's maybe about the impact of drugs on young people. And I think, well, it's not really my clinical area anymore, but you will get some of the top national people talking about it. And at the end of Congress, often you've got an understanding of, like might be areas like infection control or forensic mental health or the challenges of health visiting that you wouldn't necessarily know, because you don't often get to see those amazing speakers. And everyone's so generous. You can meet a national expert, you walk up to them, you sit there and have a drink for an hour or have a cup of tea or a chat, and people are just so amazingly supportive that,
I met Claire Picton, and I was just about to revalidate, and she was just in a couple of rows. I ended up buying a book from her, and she talked me through how to revalidate. So I was like, "Oh, that's amazing. I would never have kind of got that anywhere else." So yeah, you're right. It is amazing. You can speak to so many incredible people who ordinarily you'd think, "Oh, I can't speak to them." But Congress, it just breaks down all barriers, and everyone's in it together, aren't they?
Yeah. And that's one of the things I love. It is certainly in the evening and outside, and even, to be honest, in the debate, it is completely egalitarian. You really don't get people on their titles. And I remember one year, so when I was a student, the Northwest Council member was a guy called Steve Wright, Professor Stephen Wright. He was the lead about nursing development units in Europe, did amazing stuff, prolific author, amazing academic. He's kind of been retired a few years now. And I was at the bar about 8 years ago, and Steve was there, and I was chatting to this student nurse, and she went, "Oh, is that Professor Stephen Wright? Oh, I've read his books. He's just an amazing guy." And I went, "Right, come with me." And they came with me, and I went, "Steve, you've got a fan here." And they sat and chatted, and this student was just so made up because one of their nursing heroes was there and was giving the time. And Steve loved it, because who doesn't want someone coming up to you going, "Oh, you're amazing," It's fantastic. Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry, then there's a pause.
Sorry, I had a question and it's just completely gone out of me.
Oh.
So we're looking forward to RTN 21. So we're back in Liverpool.
Back in Liverpool, which is I think, the best evaluated venue. Because a lot of people say to me, like, "Why does it keep being in Liverpool?" And I go, it's not just because I'm the Northwest Council member and I'm so good at persuading everyone. It's lovely when it's in Liverpool. But actually, when you look at the evaluation, people love Liverpool. It's become, Harrogate used to be that in the 90s. It was pretty much in Harrogate every other year. I think it's kind of becoming that in Liverpool. So I think it's Liverpool next year. Then it'll be Brighton. Never been to Brighton, so that'll be interesting. I think Brighton or Glasgow. I think it's Glasgow, then Brighton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think we're looking at Wales, because we've been in all the countries but Wales. And there's a few venues that are just about, because I used to be on the agenda committee. and one of the interesting things is planning for Congress. Congress is one of the biggest conferences in the country. There's not many conferences that have 2,000 or 3,000 delegates and all the exhibitors, and you need accommodation for everyone. So there's only about half a dozen places that can actually handle us. So yeah, but yeah, we love Liverpool. It's great.
Well, we love having everybody over. It's such a vibrant week for us, and it means that we get to show our city off. So
Yeah.
looking forward to everybody coming back. And that's why we've put this week on, because we knew how much we were going to miss it. So we just wanted to make sure that we could get people together somehow, and carry that spirit on, really.
And it's been fantastic. I remember when I kind of came across the suggestion and thought it's so good. And it's so lovely to see people from across the whole country kind of dialing in. That I think you've plugged a real gap. And I think one of the things we kind of, certainly I've been thinking a little bit about, is how do we, when we're doing Congress, and obviously a lot of it's about people that are face to face, how can we make that a bit more inclusive to people who can't physically get there using digital means? Like, it's great that it's live streamed, that helps, but how can we find ways so that if you can't get there physically, you can still engage and still get a lot out of it? Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's come from this week and from the Zoom chats that we've been having and different meetings is that there is a need and a want for the nursing community to come together. Obviously, we've talked about engagement a lot. You know, I've spoken about it in various different guises. And maybe that while we've all now become a little bit more adept at this kind of technology, that this is the way forward for communicating amongst our members. And we've certainly had offers of other branch execs meeting. And we've had another branch ask us if we want to do a quiz night with them. So I think this has provided an insight into a platform that we can use across the organisation, you know, in whatever way. And if it helps us engage members, then that's fantastic.
I think that's a really brilliant point. And one of the things is, and again at the Northwest, I think we've been a little bit ahead of the game here. So last year we ran the Digital Activist Programme, which was the first time we'd ran it. And I know, you know, you were kind of involved, and it's I think it's something we'll probably do more of, and to kind of skill people up, say, it's not the panacea for everything, but there are certain things you can do using digital platforms. You can engage in people in different ways that can make real change. So yeah, once the kind of the madness and the lockdowns will wind down, I think we'll hopefully sort of have that as probably a kind of annual thing that we run in the Northwest.
I have mentioned it once or twice this week. It was really good though. It was brilliant.
Well, Ali Richards takes a lot of the credit for it, because you know, Ali and I were kind of co-facilitating it. So yeah.
I'm looking into organising a meeting for all the branch executives across the 4 countries over Zoom, because we're so separate that actually one thing that's come out is people want to share ideas of how we engage. So that's going to be something I'm going to work on in the next month or 2 to get that going. You know, even if just one person from each branch can make it, that's a lot of people to get involved.
Well, one of the things I haven't mentioned is one of my other hats is I'm also the RCN's treasurer, so I chair the finance committee, and so I'm the person that rocks up at the AGM and usually does a funny little talk about finance and put up a few graphs and things. But the RCN is a very well-resourced organisation, and again, it's something where if people have got an idea, you know, there is money behind it, and we can help you find out what's the best way to get it adopted by a country or a board or a branch or something. But you know, again, in the Northwest, we try and encourage an awful lot of branch activism and forum activism, and you know, we put funding behind it. And at the end of the day, it's members' money. It needs to be spent on supporting members. So yeah, it's fantastic. And thank you so much, both of you, for kind of pulling this together. Yeah.
It's been great fun. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Right.
I think we'll have to call it a night there, because we need to be getting ready for our quiz. And everyone will be able to watch this when we put it online tomorrow. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers. Bye.